Why should I implement the midterm rental insurance strategy with a sense of urgency? If you're an Airbnb operator, this is an opportunity that I think is a slam dunk because you have the ability to make a few tweaks and be early. So the number one thing that gets us ahead is typically speed and knowledge, right? It literally cuts the time in half from getting to point A to point C, right? So in between, there is a strategy that you can implement. And the cool thing that I really like about this is I was an Airbnb operator, aka short-term rental operator. And when I decided to turn on this or add on this strategy, I was able to do so by making a few tweaks and not even changing anything about my home at all. And the cool thing is, if you are an Airbnb operator, you actually have an advantage. And this is why it behooves you to be early. I'll tell you why. When we got into the Airbnb space, it was at a point where you could just take a few pictures, slap it on, and start getting direct traffic. Now, that was still the case, but then things got a little bit more competitive because more people flooded the marketplace because they're like, hey, neighbor A was like, hey man, you got to try this thing out. And really, you're making that cool. I'm going to get into it as well. What happened is then competition started getting a little fierce. So then this separator and differentiator was things like professional photos. The more professional photos that you had, you were then ahead of the pack. The design, obviously, right? Photos was one thing, right? It stood apart, made the place even look better. Then everybody kind of caught on to, and like now it's almost like a requirement. If you don't have professional photos, it's like you're not even trying to be in the top percentile. Then it got into, let's get in some serious designs, right? So those who had the cash and the budget, that's typically still always a big differentiator, right? Design. Then there's things like, hey, you know what? There's this Airbnb pricing that they use, etc. But then there's tools like Price Labs came out, and you're like, if you're seasoned, you know about the dynamic pricing. If you're not familiar with the dynamic pricing tool, it means that it was, based on what the marketplace is happening in the marketplace, it's constantly changing your prices for you. That separated the amateurs from, again, the regular operators who are just like, yeah, let me just slap this on Airbnb and see how much we can make, but with the fixed price, nothing crazy, cool. But then you start to separate yourself by the more you implement it. There was dynamic pricing, then there was property management software systems that allowed you to duplicate listings, connect to VRBO, Expedia, Booking.com. Then you got a little pretty savvy, start separate yourself from the pack, PMS, automated messages, etc. Now you start to really get into that space where you separate yourself. And then with the power of the internet, with the power of YouTube, listen, you get all this information, you got a lot of coaches, rightfully so. I got tons of coaches that help me in that Airbnb space to fine tune it, tweak it, optimize it so that I can maximize my bookings. And then the information spreads. And the information spreads so quickly in this day and age with the internet that now obviously the pool has gotten more competitive. So then what happens when you're in a competitive pool? You want to differentiate yourself. You want to have an exit strategy. You want to have multiple different strategies. I believe in having one that you double down in. That's why I specialize in midterm rental insurance. And the reason why we do that, and the reason why there's an opportunity, and the reason why you should implement it early is because it goes back to the fundamentals, the good old fundamentals. There's no crazy hack with the ads or anything like that, or there are some things you can tweak, but it goes back to the fundamental of building a relationship. Literally, relation. The people behind this industry literally start with the word relocation and relation. Same thing, relationship is the key word. And the earlier you form a relationship, it's just like being good old school when you're back in school or back at the workplace and you make a great key relationship, and that relationship opens up more doors over and over because you have the relationship. This is why this will literally help you tremendously to be early, because once a relationship is formed and people like that relationship, they typically stick with it. So what am I talking about relationship? Well, put it like this. When a homeowner owns a home, lives in a home, whether it's a homeowner with an entire family or a single homeowner, whatever the case might be, they're called a policy holder. And when something happens to their home, such as water damage, tree falls on their home, a pipe burst, weather damage, and they can no longer live in the home, they will then call their insurance company or their public adjuster. Tap in onto the episode of my episode with Andy on why you should always work with a public adjuster. But I say that nonetheless, If you call your insurance company or you work with a public adjuster, you need to file a claim because you cannot no longer live in your home. What the insurance companies will do, the State Farms, the Farmers, the Allstates, all these guys, they're not going to be the ones to relocate you into a home. They're going to work with what we call a temporary housing agency, and there are multiple of them, like ALE Solutions, THD, CRS Temp Housing. There are tons out there. Like, even lean on your local ones. This is where you will have the advantage as well. I like the national ones, work with the local ones as well. Work with all of them now, early, before everybody just starts flooding. And now Sally has 10 people calling her about, hey, can I be your midterm rental? Well, listen, maybe I am ruining it by sharing this, but maybe you're early and you're watching this and there's not that many views and you're early to the space because that's what we've done and we foster the relationships. Why do those relationships matter? Because when you're working with a temporary housing agency like the companies I just named, they are the ones finding furnished accommodation solutions for the displaced family. And now that displaced family is going to want to have an option, and when that option comes up and the relocation company searches for the options, maybe they don't have to search, and maybe they already have you in their contact, and so they call you first in the marketplace. That's right. They have an opportunity to check their databases, which you got to know the databases if you're an investor or an Airbnb operator, to list your properties in those databases. Then once you know that part, then you also want to make sure you're optimized and available and searchable. And if they are able to search you, that's the second way. And then the third way is if you have the relationship. They might even opt out of all the first two. They might not go into the database and they might not search for it. If they know you personally, they might come to you directly, email you, call you and say, hey, Joe Schmo, John Smith, do you have availability? I got a family of 5 with 2 dogs who are looking to relocate. Now, if you can't get over the fact that there might be pets staying in your home, then maybe the strategy is not for you. But if you're trying to maximize your level of service and level of product to help a family out, you are able to then get maybe your 3-month stay, 4-month stay, 5-month stay, 6-month stay booked at a premium. It will even surpass, for some of you, the short-term rental money that you're making today on Airbnb. That's right. It's completely, we've actually 2x'd our amount that we would make on Airbnb. And if you guys know anything about traditional rentals, we're already 3 to 5xing. Well, I should say this. We're actually 3xing our long-term rental revenue with Airbnb, and now we're saying we're gonna double that. That's right. That's what this midterm rental insurance can do with respect to your marketplace, with respect to the value of your home, which there's more videos on how that is calculated at length, but on this channel, by the way, so make sure you subscribe. However, you need to understand that the earlier you are, this is why if you're an Airbnb operator, you should implement the midterm rental insurance with a sense of urgency, because all you have to do is a few tweaks that you can in order to lead you to building the relationship. And the earlier you build the relationship, the more you will come to you. Put it this way, if you have a good contractor and they're really, really, really good, and you have a relationship with them and now they're your contractor, it's going to take a lot for some other contractor to come in between and be like, hey, do my services. Now, if your only thing that matters to you is price, maybe. But if you have any sense of loyalty and camaraderie and you like working with the people that you like to work with, you're probably going to hold on to that contractor. This is no different. Once you have the relationship with the relocation specialist and they value you, vice versa, they're most likely to come back to you because you've helped them in the past, right? With a family, or you've helped them relocate another family, whatever the case might be, you have a relationship. So therefore, as the marketplace gets flooded, because you know that it will, you will be early. So it behooves you to form the relationship early, optimize early, make sure that you are aware, knowledge and speed come together and make great leaps in the marketplace, right? That's just the way it's always worked. He who has the information, or she who has the information, whoever has the information is able to execute quickly, early, and efficiently. And so let that instill the sense of urgency that you need to have, depending on when you're watching this. Regardless of when you're watching this, it is better to start yesterday. So with that said, if you got any value from this, hit the subscribe button. Tons of videos on this midterm rental insurance strategy and how it can help you increase your occupancy and profitability.